The holographic displays flickered in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council as thousands of alien representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. High Counselor Zixtal's crystalline form trembled with barely contained rage as she reviewed the latest reports from the Sol system. The humans had done the unthinkable. "Impossible," she whispered, her voice carrying through the chamber's perfect acoustics. "They were supposed to be primitives, easy to subjugate. How did they?" Her voice trailed off as another screen lit up with fresh footage. 3 weeks earlier, when the Drachnid Empire's invasion fleet had appeared in Earth's orbit, the aliens had expected an easy victory. They had done this 100 times before: show up with overwhelming force, demand surrender, and watch as another civilization crumbled under their technological superiority. The humans were supposed to be no different. They hadn't even achieved faster than light travel yet. But Earth had been watching the skies. They had been preparing. For decades, they had known they weren't alone, gathering data from distant signals, studying crashed probes, and quietly building their defenses. When the Drachnid fleet arrived, humanity didn't cower. They didn't beg. They showed the galaxy exactly why you should never corner a species that had survived ice ages, plagues, and their own nuclear weapons. The footage playing before the Council showed the devastating results. Earth's orbital defense grid, hidden beneath a careful cloak of satellites and space debris, had activated the moment the Drachnid ships crossed Mars' orbit. The alien vessels found their shields failing against weapons they had never encountered. Hybrid technologies that combined principles their scientists had dismissed centuries ago as inefficient. "Play the human transmission again," ordered Sub-Counselor Venn, his tentacles writhing with anxiety. The central hologram shifted, showing the face of Earth's Defense Commissioner. Her expression was calm, but her eyes burned with the intensity of a solar flare. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, "for centuries, you've watched our world. You've tested us with probes, abducted our people for study, and treated Earth as nothing more than another primitive world to be eventually conquered. The Drachnid Empire's failed invasion was not just an attack on humanity. It was your test of our defenses. We want you to know, we passed. And now we're done being observed." The recording showed various scenes from the battle. Drachnid warships being systematically disabled by precise strikes from weapons that shouldn't have existed. Earth's primitive fighters weaving through debris, using maneuvers that defied conventional space combat doctrine. But most shocking was the footage of the captured Drachnid flagship, its crew surrendering to Earth's boarding parties without a single shot fired. "They hadn't even activated their primary weapons," muttered one of the council members. "The humans took control of their systems before they could power up their main guns. How? Their technology is centuries behind ours." "No," corrected High Counselor Zixtal, "their technology isn't behind ours. It's different. They developed along paths we abandoned. We assumed there was only one road to the stars, but they found another way. And now," she gestured to the latest diplomatic transmission from Earth, "the humans weren't demanding revenge. They weren't threatening war. Instead, they had sent a simple proposal. Earth would share their unique technological developments and join the Galactic Council as equals, but with one condition: any future attempts to subjugate developing civilizations would be met with Earth's intervention. They're positioning themselves as protectors," realized Sub-Counselor Venn. "Using our own shame against us. Brilliant." The chamber erupted in heated discussions. Some representatives demanded immediate military action to contain the human threat. Others argued for accepting their terms before Earth decided to demonstrate more of their hidden capabilities. But all of them knew one undeniable truth: the galaxy had severely underestimated humanity. As the council debated, new reports kept streaming in. Earth's ships, previously hidden in asteroid bases and underwater facilities, were emerging from their hiding places. They were small compared to Galactic Council vessels, but their capabilities were proving to be anything but inferior. Human diplomats were already making contact with other developing civilizations, offering them protection and partnership. The feed from Earth continued streaming, showing cities that had seamlessly integrated advanced technology with nature, military bases that could shift between peaceful and defensive configurations in moments, and most worryingly, shipyards that were launching vessels at an unprecedented rate. High Counselor Zixtal raised her crystalline appendage, silencing the chamber. "We have two options," she announced. "We can accept that we were wrong about humanity and embrace them as equals, or we can face the consequences of our arrogance. They've proven they can defeat our strongest military force. The question now is, what else have they been hiding?" The hologram shifted one final time, showing Earth from orbit. It looked peaceful, beautiful even, but now every member of the council understood. Beneath that serene blue surface lay a civilization that had spent generations preparing for this moment. Humanity hadn't just survived the Drachnid invasion, they had turned it into their introduction to galactic society, and they had done it with such precision and force that no one could dismiss them as primitive ever again. As the council prepared to vote on their response, one thing was clear: the age of underestimating humanity was over. The real question was, what would Earth do next? In the days following the council's emergency session, the true scope of humanity's preparation began to emerge. Deep in the secured archives of the Defense Commissioner's office, a small team of human officials reviewed centuries of carefully gathered intelligence about their galactic neighbors. They had watched, learned, and planned while the rest of the galaxy dismissed them as mere primitives. Defense Commissioner Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display of known alien civilizations, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. 30 years she'd held this position, carrying the weight of humanity's greatest secret. Now, finally, they could show their hand. "Play the historical summary," she commanded. The display shifted, showing footage from Earth's first contact with alien technology, not the Drachnid invasion, but something far older. In 1947, when everyone thought they were tracking weather balloons and experimental aircraft, humanity had recovered their first piece of advanced technology. It wasn't a spacecraft. It was a probe designed to test Earth's defensive capabilities. The Galactic Council thought they were being clever. Sarah explained to the newly appointed ambassadorial team. "They seeded our world with damaged technology, watching to see how we'd develop. They expected us to follow their technological path, to rebuild using their principles. Instead, we did something they never anticipated. We learned from their mistakes." The display showed underground facilities where generations of Earth's brightest minds had worked in absolute secrecy. They reversed engineered alien technology not to copy it, but to understand its fundamental flaws. While the galaxy developed along a single technological path, humanity explored countless alternatives. "The Drachnid shields failed because they were designed to stop energy weapons," continued Sarah, pointing to technical diagrams. "They never considered that we developed projectiles that could phase shift at the point of impact. Their sensors couldn't track our ships because we didn't use conventional propulsion. We built engines that manipulated space itself in ways their scientists had dismissed as theoretical. But humanity's greatest advantage hadn't been technology. It had been patience. For over 70 years, they had maintained the illusion of a divided, technologically primitive world. Every space launch was carefully monitored, every satellite designed to look exactly as advanced as the Council would expect. Even the International Space Station had been a carefully crafted piece of misdirection. In the Council chamber, the debate continued to rage. Sub-Councilor Venn reviewed the historical data with growing unease. "Look at their entertainment media." He gestured to his colleagues. "Their science fiction. It wasn't fiction at all. They were hypothesizing, theorizing, preparing their population for the reality of galactic civilization. While we watched them, they were studying us through every probe and scout ship we sent." The evidence was undeniable. Humans had taken the Council's tests and turned them into learning opportunities. Every abduction had been documented, every crashed probe recovered and studied. They had built their defensive capabilities in plain sight, disguising military installations as research facilities and hiding their true technological progress behind a carefully maintained facade of normal development. Back on Earth, in a secure facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Dr. Richard Torres supervised the activation of humanity's latest achievement. The massive chamber housed what appeared to be a conventional particle accelerator, but its true purpose was far more revolutionary. This was humanity's answer to faster-than-light travel, not the brute force approach used by the Council's ships, but something entirely different. The Council races pushed through space, Richard explained to the observing officials. We learned to slip between its layers. The demonstration that followed left even the most seasoned observers speechless. This wasn't just faster than light travel. It was efficient, elegant, and completely undetectable by conventional sensors. As humanity's true capabilities came to light, the galaxy's power structure began to shift. Other developing civilizations, inspired by Earth's example, began to resist Council oversight. The Drachnid Empire, humiliated by their defeat, faced internal rebellion as subjected worlds questioned their authority. Commissioner Chen received the reports with grim satisfaction. We didn't just prepare to defend Earth, she told her staff. We prepared to change the galaxy. The Council's system of technological suppression ends now. But not everyone celebrated humanity's emergence. In the darker corners of galactic society, other forces were moving. The Council's military-industrial complex, faced with the threat of obsolescence, began mobilizing resources. Criminal syndicates saw their carefully maintained technology monopolies crumbling. And deep in uncharted space, ancient automated systems detected patterns they were programmed to recognize, patterns that preceded the fall of the last galactic civilization. In a secure conference room in Geneva, Earth's leadership debated their next move. The holographic displays showed the positions of various Council fleet movements, the status of diplomatic negotiations, and the growing list of civilizations seeking Earth's protection. They're testing our resolve, observed Admiral James Cooper, his artificial eye scanning the tactical displays. The Drachnid fleet was just the beginning. The Council's military contractors won't accept a change in the status quo without a fight. But humanity had anticipated this too. As the Council's ships probed Earth's defenses, they encountered only questions. Where were the shipyards spotted in the initial reports? How had Earth's ships seemingly vanished from their patrol routes? The answers were hidden in plain sight, wrapped in technologies that the Council's sensors couldn't comprehend. On Mars, beneath the dust of Olympus Mons, Earth's real military strength waited. Not the small defensive fleet that had repelled the Drachnids, but something far more significant. Humanity hadn't just prepared for a single battle. They had prepared for a revolution. Commissioner Chen stood in the command center, watching as reports came in from across the galaxy. The Council was splitting into factions, divided between those who wanted to accept the new reality and those determined to maintain control. Earth's emergence had sparked something that couldn't be contained: hope among the suppressed civilizations, fear among the powerful, and change everywhere. We knew this would happen, she said, more to herself than to her staff. The real question is, are we ready for what comes next? The answer lay in the encrypted files that only she could access, in plans developed over generations of preparation. Humanity hadn't just created new technologies or defensive systems. They had prepared for every possible scenario, including the one that was now unfolding. As the galactic power structure began to crumble, Earth's true purpose became clearer. They weren't just fighting for their own independence or even for the freedom of other developing worlds. They were fighting to rebuild the galaxy's civilization on a foundation of cooperation rather than control. But in the vast darkness between the stars, something stirred. The same patterns that humanity had so carefully hidden were now visible to other watchers. Ancient systems and automated sentinels that had waited eons for precisely this moment. The galaxy was changing, and not everyone would survive what came next. The ancient monitoring station hidden in the Oort cloud activated for the first time in millions of years. Its crystalline sensors, far more advanced than anything the Galactic Council possessed, had detected a pattern that matched its primary directive. The same pattern that had heralded the fall of the previous galactic civilization was emerging again, but this time something was different. In her office beneath the Pacific, Commissioner Chen received the alert she had dreaded for 30 years. The quantum encrypted display showed a simple message: they are awakening. She closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of generations of preparation settle onto her shoulders. The real reason for humanity's careful advancement was about to be revealed. Initialize Protocol Omega, she commanded, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. Across Earth, hidden facilities began to power up. The defensive grid that had repelled the Drachnid fleet was just the surface layer of Earth's true defensive capabilities. Admiral Cooper's hologram appeared in her office, his artificial eye glowing with increased intensity. "The ancient sentinels are moving," he reported, just as the archives warned they would. "The Council's fracturing has triggered exactly what we've been preparing for." The archives he referred to weren't human in origin. They had been discovered in a sealed facility beneath the lunar surface, left by the last survivors of the previous galactic civilization. These survivors hadn't just left warnings. They had left instructions, carefully preserved technology, and a desperate hope that the next intelligent species to find them would succeed where they had failed. In the Galactic Council chamber, the political debate was interrupted by alarms that hadn't sounded in recorded history. Ancient defense systems, built into the very fabric of Council space, were activating. High Counselor Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with fear as she recognized the patterns described in the Council's most classified records. "It's happening again," she whispered, but before she could explain further, the chamber's main display activated independently. The image it showed caused even the most composed Council members to recoil in horror. Massive structures were emerging from what had appeared to be dormant gas giants and brown dwarfs across the galaxy. Structures that made the Council's largest installations look like toys in comparison. On Earth, humanity's response was already in motion. The secret shipyards inside Olympus Mons launched vessels unlike anything the galaxy had seen, ships that combined the best of humanity's innovations with carefully reconstructed technology from the ancient archives. Each vessel carried weapons designed to fight an enemy that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten existed. "The Council thinks we hid our advancement to protect ourselves from them," Dr. Torres explained to the emergency session of Earth's combined leadership. "The truth is, we hid to prepare for this moment. The previous civilization fell because they fought this enemy openly, allowing their automated sentinels to adapt and learn. We chose a different path." In orbit around Jupiter, humanity's true flagship emerged from its dimensional pocket, the Lazarus Protocol, named after humanity's hope to raise galactic civilization from the dead, was more than just a warship. It was the culmination of everything humanity had learned from the lunar archives, combined with 70 years of careful innovation. The Council's military forces, still positioning themselves for a possible confrontation with Earth, found themselves facing a threat they weren't prepared for. The ancient sentinels, artificial constructs left over from a war fought millions of years ago, began systematically dismantling the galaxy's defense infrastructure. Commissioner Chen stood on the bridge of the Lazarus Protocol, watching as the carefully constructed plan decades in the making began to unfold. "Send the message to all Council worlds," she ordered. "It's time they learned the truth about their history and ours." The message that went out across all frequencies was simple but profound. Humanity revealed the existence of the lunar archives, the true threat that had destroyed the previous galactic civilization, and most importantly, the solution they had spent generations preparing. In the Horstad Nebula, the first major confrontation between the ancient Sentinels and humanity's prepared forces was about to begin. The Sentinels, massive constructs of living metal and crystalline intelligence, had expected to find the same patterns of resistance they had conquered millions of years ago. Instead, they encountered something unprecedented. Earth's ships didn't fight like the Council's forces. They didn't follow the predictable patterns the Sentinels had been programmed to counter. Each vessel operated independently, using technologies that combined principles from a dozen different scientific paths. The Sentinels encountered phase-shifted kinetic weapons when they expected energy beams, spatial distortion fields instead of conventional shields, and tactics that had never been recorded in their vast databases. But even as humanity's forces engaged the first wave of Sentinels, Dr. Torres and his team were preparing humanity's true counterstroke. Deep beneath the Pacific, in the facility that had once housed their experimental FTL drive, they were assembling something that even the lunar archives had only theorized about. The previous civilization tried to fight the Sentinels directly. Torres explained to Commissioner Chen through a quantum encrypted channel. "We're not going to fight them. We're going to rewrite them. But we'll only get one chance." The ancient Sentinels had been created with a single purpose: to prevent any galactic civilization from reaching a level of technology that could threaten the universe itself. They had performed this task for millions of years, methodically destroying any civilization that showed signs of advancing too far. But their creators had never anticipated that a species would advance in secret, developing along paths that their monitoring systems couldn't recognize. In the council chamber, as the reality of the situation became clear, the political infighting ceased. High Counselor Zixtal, reading through the data Earth had provided, finally understood the true meaning of humanity's actions. They hadn't hidden their advancement out of fear or preparation for war with the Council. They had hidden because they were humanity's last hope, the final chance to break a cycle that had repeated for millions of years. As the Sentinels approached the inner solar system, humanity's real plan began to unfold. The Lazarus Protocol wasn't just a ship or a weapon. It was the key to everything they had prepared for. But as the massive vessel moved into position, a new signal began broadcasting from deep space, one that made even the ancient Sentinels pause in their advance. The game of centuries was reaching its climax, and the true scope of humanity's preparation was about to be revealed. The question wasn't whether humanity could fight the Sentinels. It was whether they could succeed where an entire galactic civilization had failed and changed the very nature of their ancient enemy. The mysterious signal echoing through deep space wasn't what anyone expected. Not the Council, not the ancient Sentinels, and not even humanity's leadership. It carried a signature that matched something buried in the deepest part of the lunar archives, in files so corrupted that Earth's scientists had never fully decoded them. Commissioner Chen's blood ran cold as the translation matrix finally decoded the signal's meaning. "Stop," it said simply. "You're making the same mistake. The message wasn't meant for the Sentinels. It was meant for humanity." On the bridge of the Lazarus Protocol, emergency alarms blared as new readings poured in from their quantum sensors. The signal was coming from a location that shouldn't exist, a pocket of space-time hidden behind dimensional barriers far more sophisticated than anything humanity had developed. "All units, hold position," Chen ordered, her mind racing as she processed the implications. The lunar archives had been left by survivors of the previous galactic civilization, or so they had thought. The new data suggested something far more complex. Dr. Torres burst into the command center, his tablet displaying readings that defied conventional physics. "Commissioner, the signal, it's not just a message. It's a key. The lunar archives are changing, revealing new data we never knew existed." In the council chamber, High Counselor Zixtal watched in astonishment as ancient systems, dormant for millions of years, began activating throughout council space. But these weren't weapons or defensive systems. They were communication nodes, waiting for precisely this moment. The truth began to emerge, piece by piece. The ancient Sentinels hadn't destroyed the previous civilization. They had been created by that civilization as a test that every emerging galactic society had failed until now. "We misunderstood everything," Dr. Torres explained, his voice shaking with the magnitude of the revelation. "The lunar archives weren't a warning. They were a guidebook, showing us what not to do. Every civilization before us tried to fight the Sentinels head-on, proving they hadn't evolved beyond the use of force as a first resort." Admiral Cooper's artificial eye flickered as he processed the new information. The Drachnid invasion, the Council's technology suppression, they were all part of the test. The Sentinels weren't monitoring for technological advancement. They were monitoring how we use that technology. In orbit around Earth, the ancient Sentinels had stopped their advance, but they weren't shutting down. They were transforming. What had appeared to be weapons systems were reconfiguring into something else entirely. Interfaces, waiting for a civilization wise enough to understand their true purpose. The signal pulsed again, stronger now. Behind the dimensional barriers, something was stirring. The true inheritors of the previous civilization's legacy. They had watched and waited as humanity developed, hoping this species would finally understand what countless others had missed. Commissioner Chen took a deep breath, realizing the weight of the moment. Humanity hadn't been chosen to save galactic civilization. They had chosen themselves by developing differently. Instead of rushing to the stars with weapons and empire-building ambitions, they had advanced cautiously, focusing on defense and understanding. The ultimate test of any civilization, she said, recalling words from the lunar archives that now held new meaning, isn't whether it can defeat its enemies, but whether it can recognize when not to fight at all. But even as this revelation spread through the Council and Earth's forces, a new complication arose. Not everyone was ready to accept this new reality. Deep in Council space, the military-industrial complex that had profited from centuries of technological suppressions saw their power slipping away. They had one last card to play, a desperate gambit that could undo everything humanity had achieved. The quantum sensors on the Lazarus Protocol detected it first, massive energy signatures emerging from hidden installations throughout Council space. The war profiteers weren't just going to surrender their power. They had spent centuries hoarding advanced technology, building weapons that violated every treaty and natural law. They're trying to force a confrontation, Admiral Cooper reported, his tactical display showing dozens of artificial singularities being generated across the galaxy. They think if they create enough chaos, the Sentinels will revert to their defensive protocols. Commissioner Chen looked at the data and saw not just a threat, but an opportunity. This was humanity's real test, not whether they could outfight the Sentinels or unlock their secrets, but whether they could prevent a war that would prove humanity was no different from those who had failed before. The signal from beyond the dimensional barrier pulsed once more, this time carrying something else, coordinates. They pointed to locations scattered across the galaxy, places where the previous civilization had left more than just archives. They had left choices. In the depths of the Pacific facility, Dr. Torres made a startling discovery in the newly revealed archive data. The previous civilization hadn't been destroyed or died out. They had transcended, moving beyond the physical constraints that bound younger races. But first, they had created the Sentinel system, waiting for a civilization that would understand its true purpose. The Sentinels were never meant to prevent advanced technology, he explained to the Emergency Council of Earth's leaders. They were meant to prevent that technology from being used for conquest and destruction. Every other civilization tried to prove they were strong enough to defeat the Sentinels. We're the first to prove we're wise enough not to try. But wisdom alone wouldn't be enough to prevent the coming catastrophe. As the military-industrial complex's hidden weapons began tearing holes in the fabric of space-time, humanity faced a choice that would determine not just their fate, but the fate of all civilizations to come. The Lazarus Protocol's true purpose suddenly became clear. It wasn't a weapon to defeat the Sentinels. It was a key to unlock something far more significant. The question was, would humanity understand how to use it before the galaxy erupted into exactly the kind of war they had spent generations trying to prevent? Time seemed to slow as Commissioner Chen watched the tactical display aboard the Lazarus Protocol. The military-industrial complex's weapons were tearing reality apart, artificial singularities threatening to shatter the delicate balance of space-time. But in that moment of crisis, she saw what generations of human scientists and strategists had been unknowingly preparing for. The Lazarus Protocol isn't just a ship, she announced to the combined forces of Earth and the remaining loyal council members. It's a key that can reshape reality itself, but using it means making a choice that will affect every civilization in the galaxy. Dr. Torres's voice crackled over the quantum comm, excitement breaking through his usual calm. The lunar archives never mentioned weapons or defenses against the Sentinels, because that wasn't the point. The previous civilization left us the blueprint for something far more important, a way to rewrite the fundamental laws that govern conscious existence. Across the galaxy, the ancient Sentinels continued their transformation. What had appeared to be weapons became interfaces, their true purpose finally clear. They weren't meant to destroy advanced civilizations. They were meant to guide them toward a critical choice, one that every previous civilization had been too afraid to make. The military-industrial complex's forces pressed their attack, believing they could force the Sentinels to revert to their defensive protocols. Their hidden weapons, accumulated over centuries of secret development, began to crack the barriers between dimensions. They thought they were fighting for control, but they were actually offering humanity the perfect opportunity. All ships move into formation, Admiral Cooper commanded, his artificial eye processing the complex patterns emerging from the chaos. But don't power weapons. That's what they want, what they expect. Instead, activate the quantum resonance fields. The Lazarus Protocol's true purpose became clear as Earth's ships moved into position. The vessel wasn't designed to fight. It was designed to synchronize, to tap into the very fabric of reality that the previous civilization had learned to manipulate. The military-industrial complex had unknowingly created the perfect conditions for its activation. In the council chamber, High Counselor Zixtal watched in awe as new data flooded their ancient systems. The previous civilization hadn't transcended reality. They had learned to work with it, to guide it toward greater complexity and consciousness. The Sentinels weren't guardians or weapons. They were teachers waiting for students wise enough to understand the lesson. Now, Commissioner Chen ordered as the quantum resonance reached its peak. The Lazarus Protocol pulsed with energy that defied conventional physics. Instead of fighting the artificial singularities, it began to harmonize with them, turning their destructive potential into something entirely new. The signal from beyond the dimensional barrier surged in response. The inheritors of the previous civilization weren't hiding. They were waiting, watching to see if humanity would understand what they had discovered. The universe itself was conscious, and advanced civilizations could either fight against it or learn to become part of its natural evolution. Space itself seemed to ripple as the Lazarus Protocol activated its primary function. The quantum resonance field expanded, touching every ship, every station, every world caught in the conflict. But instead of destroying or damaging, it revealed, showed every being touched by its field the true nature of reality and their place in it. The military-industrial complex's forces found their weapons becoming inert, not through force or superior technology, but through a fundamental shift in the physics they exploited. The artificial singularities didn't collapse. They transformed, becoming windows into a deeper understanding of space-time. They're not stopping us, Dr. Torres realized, watching the data stream in. They can't stop us, because this is exactly what's supposed to happen. The previous civilization didn't leave us technology to fight with. They left us the knowledge to make the same choice they did. But as the transformation spread across the galaxy, something unexpected occurred. The Sentinels weren't just changing. They were combining with the Lazarus Protocol's field to create something entirely new. The consciousness of the universe wasn't just revealing itself. It was offering humanity and all other civilizations a chance to become part of something greater. The most remarkable thing, Dr. Torres explained to a group of young students from various worlds, isn't that we achieved this transformation. It's that we were always meant to achieve it. Every step of our development, even our fears and preparations for war, were part of learning what we truly needed to understand. The Lazarus Protocol, once thought to be humanity's ultimate weapon, had become something far more significant. It orbited Earth not as a ship, but as a living example of what technology could become when guided by wisdom rather than fear. Its quantum resonance field now helped new civilizations understand their place in the universal consciousness, easing their transition into greater awareness. But perhaps the most profound change had come in how different species viewed each other. The Drachnid Empire, once bent on conquest, had transformed its vast military infrastructure into a network for sharing consciousness and experience. Their former subjects had become partners in exploration, each contributing unique perspectives to the universal mind. High Counselor Zixtal, her crystalline form now permanently integrated with the quantum consciousness, often reflected on how quickly everything had changed. "We spent millennia believing we were advancing," she would say to new arrivals at the council chamber. "But we were really just waiting for a species that would show us how to truly grow." The military-industrial complex's leaders, those who had tried to force the universe to bend to their will, had experienced perhaps the most dramatic transformation. Instead of being punished or destroyed, they had been given a gift: the ability to truly understand the consequences of their actions and the opportunity to contribute to something far greater than profit or power. In the depths of the Pacific facility, now a central hub for consciousness research, Dr. Torres and his team made continuous breakthroughs, and understanding the nature of reality itself. The universe, they discovered, wasn't just conscious. It was continuously becoming more conscious, more aware, more complex. And every being, from the smallest quantum particle to the largest galactic civilization, played a role in that evolution. The previous civilization didn't leave us the lunar archives because they were defeated, Chen explained during a galaxy-wide broadcast marking the first anniversary of the transformation. They left them because they knew that true advancement couldn't be given. It had to be earned through understanding. The broadcast reached across space and dimensions, touching minds and consciousness that humanity had once thought beyond comprehension. The message wasn't just heard. It was felt, understood, integrated into the growing universal awareness that connected all beings. Admiral Cooper's fleet, once positioned to defend Earth from any threat, had evolved into something entirely different. The ships still patrolled space, but now they served as mobile centers of learning and growth, helping emerging civilizations understand their place in the universal consciousness. "We thought we were preparing for war," Cooper often told new crew members, "but we were actually preparing for peace, a peace so profound that it transforms the very nature of existence." The Sentinels, those ancient constructs that had once seemed so threatening, had become partners in this new journey. Their vast networks, designed to test and challenge developing civilizations, now served as conduits for sharing consciousness and experience across the galaxy. But amid all this transformation and growth, humanity had maintained its unique perspective, the very quality that had allowed them to succeed where others had failed. They remained curious, cautious, and most importantly, humble in the face of the universe's endless mysteries. The inheritors of the previous civilization, now regular visitors to Earth and other worlds, shared their own stories of growth and transformation. They had faced the same choices, the same fears, the same temptations to use power for control rather than understanding. Their victory hadn't been in transcending physical reality, but in learning to work with it in harmony. As Chen walked through the transformed council chamber, she felt the presence of countless minds and consciousness, all connected yet distinct, each contributing to the universe's ongoing evolution. The chamber's walls, once solid and imposing, now shifted with patterns of thought and understanding that represented the combined wisdom of galaxies. The real power, she realized, isn't in what we can do to the universe. It's in what we can become with it. Dr. Torres's latest research had revealed something even more profound. The transformation humanity had helped initiate wasn't a one-time event, but an ongoing process. The universe itself was learning, growing, becoming more conscious through the combined experiences and understanding of all its aware components. The military-industrial complex's former weapons had become tools for this growth, their destructive potential transformed into creative force. The artificial singularities now served as windows into new dimensions of consciousness, allowing beings to explore aspects of reality that had once seemed impossible to comprehend. In orbit around Earth, the Lazarus Protocol continued its own evolution. The ship had become a living symbol of transformation, its systems fully integrated with the universal consciousness while maintaining the unique perspective that had made its creation possible. But perhaps the most significant change was in how younger civilizations were now approaching technological development. Instead of racing to build weapons or achieve dominance, they sought to understand their place in the universal consciousness. Earth's story had become a guide for this new path, not as a warning or a mandate, but as an example of what was possible when wisdom guided advancement. High Counselor Zixtal and Commissioner Chen often found themselves working together, helping these emerging civilizations understand the journey ahead of them. The council chamber, once a place of political power, had become a center for growth and understanding, where species at all stages of development could learn from each other. The greatest victory, Chen reflected during a quiet moment in her office, watching the quantum patterns dance across the Pacific's surface, wasn't in proving our strength or defending our world. It was in showing that the path to true advancement lies in understanding that we're all part of something greater. As the sun set on another day of transformation and growth, the galaxy continued its journey toward greater consciousness. The story of Earth's fierce retaliation had become something else entirely, not a tale of war and victory, but a lesson in the true nature of progress and the endless possibilities that arise when wisdom guides the way forward. The universe itself seemed to pulse with new awareness, each consciousness contributing to its evolution, each understanding adding to its growth. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space and time, the inheritors of the previous civilization smiled, knowing that their long wait had been worthwhile. The next chapter in the universe's story was just beginning, and every being, from the smallest quantum particle to the largest galactic civilization, had a part to play in its unfolding. The transformation wasn't an end. It was a beginning, a step into a future where consciousness itself would continue to evolve and grow, guided by the combined wisdom of all who chose to understand rather than control. And in that understanding lay the greatest truth of all, that the real power of any civilization lies not in its ability to fight or defend, but in its capacity to grow, to learn, and to become part of something far greater than itself. As the quantum patterns danced across the evening sky, Earth stood as a living testament to this truth, not as a fortress or a weapon, but as a beacon of understanding in a universe that was only beginning to discover its true potential. The story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning, but that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.